Yo, 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 what is going down? It is the Fantasy Football Show here tonight to give y'all the remix, baby. Out here with verses tonight, man. We got that popping for sure. So y'all know the drills. Johnny Main, brother Nick Wilcox. How's it going, man?
What up? What up? What up? Hey, yo, we out here turning up. Great to be back with you as always, my guy. Ready to kick off second part of Versus here. I'm excited for this topic as always. And yeah, man, we are particularly really good in draft season. So yeah, excited to be talking about fantasy football again, of course. And as the weeks go on, man, everybody just gotta keep on staying tuned to our show, man. That's all I'm gonna tell them. So.
That's fair. Listen, tell your friends about us. You know what I mean? Tell your friends about us for sure. All right. Yeah, the Pick and friend pod. What up? Oh, man. Before we get started, I know we were talking on Sunday. We had our pod with Colin. Did you get a chance to catch up on SummerSlam or no?
Yep. Yeah. Most of the things I said was going to happen happened. Besides, the LA Knight thing was interesting.
yeah, I'm glad. I felt like if they're putting it on everybody. I mean, you can't take it off of Reigns and put it on that guy. But he definitely deserves a run at some point, though. He definitely deserves a run. I like him for sure. No, I thought Night 2 was pretty solid, man, for sure. I thought it was definitely pretty solid. Like I said, man, missed Kevin Owens, had to go back and rewatch and not turn into a big old crybaby whenever he got ready to come out. I was like, oh my god! I was like, what? Yo, this is crazy, man. So that was pretty dope for sure. But yeah, good show, man, definitely. All right, man, we'll get right to it, man. First thing before we get into verses for sure, we got this right here today. This happened. Stefon Diggs to the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
Was previously, I should say, going at wide receiver 54 ADP, man. What's your thoughts on this?
I mean, Stefon Diggs is someone that we all knew was going to find a home, and it's been talked about for months that he was going to be a Commander. So does it shock me now? No. Wide receiver 50, you said 54?
54. Yeah.
I mean, look, he's going to beat that price tag with ease, barring injury. It's just more now, can we get Stefon Diggs, in a role in Washington that, we had Deebo Samuel there last year. And he did so-so. He did okay, right? With Stefon Diggs now, he's a couple of years older. He's 32, going to be 33, I think. Yeah. So before December, so it'll be 12 weeks into the season. But so it's gonna be more about now. It's can Stefon Diggs, give us a fantasy productive season? I mean, he totally can. It's just more about is he gonna be definitely week in, week out flex, right? Based on the role in this offense. I think that's totally doable. I think outside of Terry McLaurin, we were talking about Chig Okonkwo. So I think that's someone that, definitely garners some name recognition. But I do think Stefon Diggs is someone that, he should be a slot merchant, right? We shouldn't be playing too much outside role. But this is someone that you should be drafting in builds that you are really comfortable already at running back and you just need some wide receiver depth. I think Stefon Diggs, his price tag for 54 is going to definitely go up. The question is how much. I think Stefon Diggs, he goes up to a potential wide receiver that started the wide receiver 4s. So probably the probably would say where you drafted, where we were drafting around Ricky Pearsall's, the Josh Downs, and overall Jaden Reeds and stuff like that. So I do think he belongs in that category. I'm not expecting Stefon Diggs to give us this wow fantasy up. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Can he mess around and play with a cup of coffee in the top 24 in some weeks? Sure. But I'm just not expecting that from him.
Yeah, he had 7 top 24 weeks last year with New England and 4 top 12 weeks, and he was actually, man, like from a fantasy side of things, he wasn't more productive than Tay, but he was the most productive out of wide receivers age 31 and up. And I
Sure.
think we can kind of take that with a cup of coffee. Obviously, no Mike,
Yeah.
no Mike Evans, but like he outproduced Keenan Allen in yards. Had the same amount of touchdowns. Devontae Adams had more yards than him, but Devontae Adams, like he catches touchdowns, like we all know that. So I think like you're right as far as like him, like him outperforming the current price tag that he's at. I definitely do think that this has been a topic, like for me anyway, during the offseason is looking at somebody as far as he goes, as far as Steph Diggs goes, as somebody that could still bring a little bit of value to you. I think last year might have been, we might have reached a little bit for him, but total points wise, wide receiver 16, he had over 210 fantasy points last year as far as PPR leagues go. So he's definitely worth the price tag of wide receiver 54, maybe even wide receiver 35 or 40. I would say like at this point. But you're right. Like I think Chig is he's definitely the loser in this one, or at least early on, he's the loser in this space.
I guess, but even so, I think we all knew the Commanders need weapons and stuff like that. We all knew Stephon Diggs was gonna be tied to this offense. Like for the most part, it just felt like that was gonna happen anyway. Is Chig a loser? I wouldn't say he's a loser yet. It just depends on like we got to see how this Commanders offense goes, right? Like I do think there's still, overall you should warrant Chig in general in some drafts, especially if you get behind on tight end. But to say he's a loser, I'm not ready to call him a loser yet.
Well, I mean, listen, that's either saying one or two things: either high hopes for Jaden Daniels in this Washington Commanders offense, or either Terry McLaurin or one of those other guys is going to be the odd man out. But I think, like we know, like there's a couple of offenses, and like we'll talk about them a little bit later, that are able to support 3 and 4 type of skill players like that. Like obviously the Detroit Lions, you think about a team like that with Amon and Laporta and J-Mo and Gibbs. So like again, if that's the case, then it's high hopes for Jaden Daniels, and that's definitely in the deck of cards for him for sure. So definitely, geez, Snoop, jeez. Oh man, we'll have to see how it goes, man. But nonetheless, another domino to fall here during training camp, and we always know it's the second wave of free agency typically happens right about now. So definitely want to get that out. So we'll go ahead and get started with verses, man. So starting off, we got Trevor Lawrence versus Jaxson Dart, and these guys are literally right now going one pick after the other. You're on the clock. You got your build. You need a quarterback. These two guys are staring you at the face. Who and why, man?
Sure. So let's just start with both cases, right? Let's start with Jaxson Dart. Jaxson Dart overall, New York Giants. We talk about the Giants in years past. This offensive line has not been well at all. So now that combined with Malik Nabers was lost for most of the season, and Cam Scatterbo, I believe he left. Correct me if I'm wrong. He left like week 7 or week 8 or something like that into the season.
It was around. I think it was week 8, I believe. But yeah.
So yeah, like all that happening for Jaxson Dart, and he was still pretty productive as one of fantasy's got better QBs down the stretch because of his legs. And all he had to do was pretty much throw the ball to Wan'Dale Robinson. So there's that. I mean, obviously, like completion rate was not like where you want it to be, but overall, have an improvement he could definitely have. Now enter all the changes, right? John Harbaugh entering the offense. Matt Nagy's now the offensive coordinator. The offensive line has beefed up a bit. Malik Nabers coming back from injury along with Cam Scatterbo. So now all of a sudden you potentially have an offense that with the Giants that a lot of us don't really know where to rank them in terms of like what expectations we should really expect. But what I will say about Jaxson Dart is that he's someone that is in some rooms just going a little bit too down the board. In some cases, you're grabbing Jaxson Dart as like the 13th QB off the board, which makes no sense to me. Like the ADP right now, what we see is here in the 8th round, I usually see him go later, 10th round, sometimes even early 11th round. In my 14-team league I did earlier, like he went like 11th round. So it's something where I think if Jaxson Dart is one of those guys that falls down the board more, like he's someone that you should just take a gamble on and then take somebody else, just to shore up your QB room. The other side, Trevor Lawrence, right? Someone that, especially yourself, was really, gung-ho about, and obviously for good reason, because you picked him off the waiver wire, and all of a sudden he finished the season as a QB4, QB5, depending on what league you overall played in for points and whatever. Trevor Lawrence, the biggest thing was that we all knew about Liam Cohen's offense. Took him a while to kind of get his legs underneath him. First, 8 or 9 weeks, we were like, oh, Trevor Lawrence, there he is. Is he really a bust now? There's a lot of that talk going on. But then, things crystallized. Things really came together for Trevor Lawrence, especially from weeks 10 to the championship, weeks. And that's what we ultimately want from our quarterbacks, just to get hot towards the end. And with Trevor Lawrence, the question will be now is can he keep that consistency? And with this Jacksonville Jaguars offense not really changing up too much outside of Travis Etienne leaving, does that even leave more rushing ability for Trevor Lawrence than we had seen before? So there's cases for both of these quarterbacks. Where I'm going is Trevor Lawrence, and it's just because I think with Trevor Lawrence, we know what we're getting. We know we're getting a Liam Cohen offense that's very fantasy friendly. We're getting a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence who is really starting to come into his own. He is the better passer of the two. He has more of the weapons around him and more stability around him. Although the Giants have made their overall adjustments for Jaxson Dart in this offense and Malik Nabers coming back, I'm just more willing to put if I'm drafting either one or the other, I'm just gonna take I'm gonna take the stab at Trevor Lawrence because we've seen him be hot towards the end of the season. Now it seems like the again more fantasy friendly offense in Jacksonville. So I'm just gonna put my stake and claim on Trevor Lawrence here. Like I said, Jaxson Dart in other rooms, like I said, he falls down the board a little too much, and that's where I would love to take an opportunity on that because obviously he's the better rusher of the two, so to speak. He scrambles a bit more. But what I will say is that Trevor Lawrence to me it just seems like more of the somewhat safer, but also can give us ceiling on more of a regular basis. And Jaxson Dart can give us ceiling. It's just more about how consistent will that be.
Yeah, it's no shock. It's definitely Trevor Lawrence for me by a Mississippi mile. And just for a lot of specific reasons, right? Like the Jags, the pace they played with last year, they're going to be on the field. They were 6th in the NFL as far as plays ran last year for Trevor Lawrence. So you want your quarterback on the field. He was 6th in attempts, 4th in red zone passing attempts, 5th in throws into the red zone. So that's what you want, right? That's what you want from your quarterback is you want touchdowns. The biggest thing is he had 9 rushing touchdowns last year, which was the only person that had more than him was Josh Allen. And I think there's even more room to grow for Trevor Lawrence. I think we talk about, hey, he finished hot and we all know about that 9 of the last 12 finishes. He was in the top 10, including 2 number 1 overall finishes at the position. The only guy to do that all last season. But the Jaguars pass catchers dropped 39 balls last year. That was the most in the NFL. So there's actually even more room to grow for Trevor Lawrence's stats and even for his receivers when you think about the success that he had going into last season. You hit on the fact of Liam Cohen in year 2 in this offense, so it's only going to get better. Jaxson Dart, man, I think he's one of the most polarizing players in fantasy drafts. Either you love him or you hate him, and obviously, in preparation for for the show tonight, I was this looks and it reminds me a lot of Justin Fields, is what it reminds me of. 195 yards passing this offense with Jaxson Dart at the helm. You can make the argument, hey, okay, Malik Nabers wasn't there, so that's why that number looked as gross as it did. Maybe not. You mentioned his mobility. Only Drake May had a higher scramble percentage than Jaxson Dart, and Drake May, it's been well documented about his athleticism for sure. And you mentioned him again running the ball. He was 4th in red zone attempts in the NFL as far as quarterbacks go, 1st in runs over 10 yards or more. So you really are relying a lot on the mobility of Jaxson Dart if you take him. However, there was like a crazy thing that was here. I feel like he had got checked for like a concussion in like, I don't know, like 8 games that he played. Yeah, like no, 5 times he got checked for a concussion. I seen that stat and I was like, yo, like that's crazy. All right. But like he's a guy that like that he is going to be the guy when you get inside the red zone. And like, is that a part of was that because Cam Scatterbo wasn't there last year? Dart is reckless. I agree, man. I agree. Yes, Trevor Lawrence for MVP, baby. I'm telling you, it's a thing. It is a thing. I'm here for it. But yeah, like I Jaxson Dart, like if he falls to a certain place in a room, like I'm not a Jaxson Dart fan as far as like fantasy goes, but like you said, Nick, like if he's fallen to rounds 12 and rounds 13 and 11 and this, like, all right, cool, like that's a great time to take a stab on him and pair him up, because the other side of this too is we truly honestly don't even know like how good he could be, because the best player on the field for the Giants on offense wasn't there last year. So, like, we really don't know, but I am a little bit shaky about the 195 passing yards that he did average last year. Matt Nagy's offenses never have ranked, with him calling plays, haven't ranked any higher than 21st when he was there with the Bears as far as play callers. So, it just seems like it's a little bit shaky to me as far as Jaxson Dart goes. But, again, the upside is there with the rushing case. But for me, man, I'm taking Trevor Lawrence every single day and twice on Sunday, man, for sure. All right. All right. Got a couple OG veterans out here, man. OG veterans. I love seeing these two names here for sure, man. Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. Obviously, Saquon going at the 202. We talked a little bit about him on Sunday with Colin. And then we got the big dog, Derrick Henry. For me, man, Derrick Henry was somebody last year that I was all the way in on. He didn't let me down. And he still hasn't
let me down either.
He hasn't he's not going to let you down. Even for what he doesn't do in the passing game, which has been well documented, like over the course of life. He was 2nd in rushing yards last season, 2nd in rushing touchdowns. Every year that he's been with the Baltimore Ravens, he's been a top 7 fantasy running back for sure. People keep saying, hey, like the bottom is falling out, the bottom will fall out, and it's going to catch him at some point in time. And some people kind of pointed to some of his the analytic stats as far as like missed tackles and things like that, and the decrease in that space. Yeah, like that number did drop dramatically for him. However, the one thing like we always know about Derrick Henry, as the weather gets colder and the big man gets rolling, he gets a lot harder to tackle for sure. So the second part of the season, he generated the second most rushing yards as far as missed tackles goes, and 588 yards after contact during that time frame, which was the most in the NFL. So I'm still in on Derrick Henry. I still think like, the price tag has dropped dramatically, right? But like if you're in a situation where, you have the opportunity to take Derrick Henry, like you could do a lot worse at the running back position than Derrick Henry, especially making that turn into, the 3rd round. If you're able to, if he falls to the 3rd round, because obviously his ADP is showing 210. So, hey, like if you're able to start off, a league with, a Bijan, a Gibbs, a Nico Collins, and then able to come back around and get a Derrick Henry, like that's a really, really phenomenal start for sure. So then we have Saquon. We talked a lot about him, so like I won't go like super crazy because we talked about him a lot on Sunday. But we just kind of boiled it down to like, hey man, offensive line and health for these guys. Like they're still going to run the ball. Like that's still what they want to do at heart. Like 1,000%. Like there's not getting it misconstrued. Watching like inside the training camp today, seems like Jalen Hurts, they're trying to do like a little bit more zone stuff, trying to get Saquon out to the outside, which I think is great. He's still getting a lot of red zone attempts, so that's obviously a good thing. He actually was 16th in missed tackles forced. Derrick Henry was actually 17th. So a couple of the OGs still kind of battling it out for that space, man. And like when you get hit behind the offensive line, if you ever played running back in high school or college or Pop Warner, if you get hit behind the line 50% of the time, man, you ain't going nowhere, man. You ain't going nowhere. So I think that was an outlier year for sure. And then Saquon, obviously, utilization in the passing game more than what Derrick Henry does. He's on the field more than Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry only plays about 55% of the time anyway. So when he's in, he's getting the rock. Like there ain't no question about it. So like if I'm on the board, like for me in this place here, like it's a little bit of a gap as far as like ADP here. I think like Saquon might start to see a little bit more love just from like the youth side of things. But if I had to pick one of these two guys, it's a good play. It's a good problem to have, man. It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. I think I'm just gonna take Saquon just because I feel like it's a little bit safer. Just because you might get a little bit more in the passing game, for sure. And then also too, like Derrick Henry, another interesting stat like I found. I can't remember where I read it at, but it was somewhere that had basically talked about Derrick Henry's production with Lamar Jackson on the field. And when Lamar Jackson was actually on the field, Derrick Henry's production actually went down because if you remember, Lamar was out for a handful of games last year. And when he was out, obviously they had no choice but to ride the big dog. So he's still going to get his, man, for sure. So I'm just going to take Saquon just from youth, offensive line and plus. So yeah, but if Derrick Henry is there in round 3, like I'm not even blinking my eyes. I'm not even thinking twice about it. I think this is both of these guys. Like this is the best value you could get for both of these guys. Really, like you're talking about. I know last night or Sunday we were talking about like maybe the number 5 player overall, but maybe like number 3 in some rooms with Saquon Barkley, getting him now this year in the second round, and Derrick Henry was going at the end of the first round. And you're getting him in the third. Great value for both players, man.
Yeah. What I'll say about both of them is that we both love these players for the last couple of years anyway. So remember the first year we were doing this, like Saquon and Henry, this. It's like, okay, guys, all right, don't be idiots. Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
So we both like both of them. So it is kind of hard to nitpick at both of them. What it comes down to for me will just really be like where I'm picking in the draft. If I have a top 3 pick and Henry somehow makes it to the 2-3 turn, dude, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah, that's like I'm just like thinking in my mind. I'm like, yo, that's crazy to like start off a draft with like Bijan, Gibbs, and like pick a wide receiver, right? Pick a wide receiver. Like you could pick, you could pick Nico. You like
Brown,
Nico, AJ Brown, George Pickens. Malik Nabers, right? Like any of those guys, like, and then you get Derrick Henry to boot, like
it's crazy. Yeah. So I'll just say that, and then Derrick Henry averaging 5.2 yards per carry last season, and more than 15 rushing touchdowns. Like Derrick Henry just was like you said, and what we know. It's like once the weather gets a little bit more colder, like it's harder to tackle a guy like him. No. I know the age. Yeah, we're waiting on the age cliff. All these running backs and stuff. I just honestly think this is not the year for Derrick Henry to fall off.
No,
I haven't really seen like. Usually you see like a sign or two or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But because of like how Derrick Henry takes care of his body over the offseason, the way like he overall just does things, like I think next year is probably the fall off year. Can he have a tick down in production? Yeah, but I think that's baked into his ADP already. So if he's there at your 2-3 turn, you're taking him every time. Let me talk about Barkley, right? I'm taking Barkley as my second running back in a double running back build if I'm drafting on the end, right? Because it makes too much sense to not do that. With Saquon, like we talked about on Sunday's show, hey, we had a banger of a show. You need to go watch that. We had Colin on. Colin's amazing. And overall, you guys just look back at that show for a little bit just to see what else we talked about Saquon. But what I'll say about Saquon is that, just don't overthink it with Saquon. Like, if he's at the 1-2 turn for you, or if he's like one of those guys at the tail end, like you're grabbing him and you're grabbing another running back if you really don't feel like so solid, or if you want to balance out your roster at the end of if you're drafting at the end, Okay, cool. But I have no qualms with either player. It just depends on where you're getting them, because the likelihood of you drafting at the end of a 12-teamer or whatever, it's like you're not going to be able to grab Henry, because there'll be other running backs that we feel are still capable of finishing better than Henry. But yeah, again, if Henry makes a 2-3 turn, or if he's like you're at the tail end of the second round, like you're grabbing him as a steal and a value. So picking between them, like I would take Henry because for the value. But honestly, like Barkley, like he's someone that I'm highly, highly, highly on to have that bounce back season. So
dig that. All right, here we go again, man. I was
nice.
trying to get into this one, man. I was like, all right, I was like, this is a good one here. This is a good one here. Malik Nabers and Garrett Wilson. Like, you're talking about two wide receivers that realistically last year, just for example, Malik Nabers was a first-round pick last year. Garrett Wilson was like a fringe, first-round, second-round talent for sure. So, now here we are with Malik Nabers, doesn't land on the pup for sure, and talked a little bit about Jaxson Dart and the 195 passing yards per game that he averaged, which of course makes my overstimulated brain think, okay, like Malik Nabers 195 yards. Isaiah Likely is also, slotted to be a breakout candidate, but it's only 195 yards. But Malik Nabers was like a target hog before meeting Jaxson Dart. And so really to kind of go into things, like you have to go backwards to look at the previous season, his last full season, because he only had the 4 games last year. So it was really crazy. 170 targets in his rookie year. Like second in the NFL behind one Ja'Marr Chase. But the one thing that like really was really interesting to me about like with Malik Nabers in his rookie season was the 580 the 580 receiving yards on passing plays that were under 10 yards in the air. So like really being a run after the catch type of guy. And then just like also too, not forgetting how bad the Giants were when he was there. Right, like game script was really, really, really in his favor, for sure. And then the other thing that was really wild to see, and I don't know, maybe this might be the skeleton key for Malik Nabers and or for Jaxson Dart. Again, completely different scenario, but Malik Nabers versus single high safeties, he was targeted like 37% of the time his rookie season. And so depending on what happens with Cam Scatterbo, Tyrone Tracy was actually not that bad last year in certain spaces. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting and very intriguing to see like what happens with the Giants. But you have we're talking about two players that like are high-end fantasy players that like they're just coming off of injuries, right? Like we talk about like Garrett Wilson now. Like Garrett Wilson has never been bad at football, bro. Like he's never been bad at football.
Nope.
Like, to quote the great street philosopher Coop, he wasn't bad. Maybe he just got hurt, but he ain't bad, right? And like so now, like when we're thinking about like value from like a value perspective, right? Like if you're telling me that I can get a guy that was on the 1-2 turn last year coming into round 4, I'm a little bit more enamored now by Garrett Wilson than I probably was about 2 weeks ago. Frank Wright's offenses, he's been 9th and 13th in passing attempts as far as his offenses go. And obviously, he's the offensive coordinator there for the New York Jets. But like the thing that really, really stuck out to me was is that there have been players that have had consistent 80 reception and 1,000 yards their first 3 seasons in the league. Odell Beckham, Michael Thomas, Justin Jefferson, Ja'Marr Chase, and Garrett Wilson. Like, that's rare air. And then if we even want to get even further, like inside of that, from a reception side of things, like he's one of the top players in NFL history as far as receptions go during their first 3 seasons. And he's had more catches during this time frame than Justin Jefferson, Michael Thomas, Amon-Ra, Puka, OBJ, Jarvis Landry, JSN, and even some of your favorite players right now, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, DeAndre Hopkins, Alvin Kamara, Mike Evans, Zay Flowers, Brandon Marshall, Larry Fitzgerald. We have just forgot about how good Garrett Wilson actually is in real life. And if you're telling me that, like, I can get this guy with a guy like Geno Smith, who is a pro's pro, and he's not relying on his mobility, he's relying on his arm, I think I have just found maybe the most undervalued player in fantasy drafts this season at the wide receiver position in Garrett Wilson.
So you got?
I mean, if I could get Garrett Wilson a full round after, I still even feel like this. Like, I don't want to say that I'm being like tricked into Malik Nabers, but I think like I do feel like at this point, like if I'm getting Garrett Wilson there, like I'm okay with it. Like I just, again, like mentioning all of those names and the consistency, he's never caught a bunch of touchdowns. That's never been Garrett Wilson's game. It's not. But like receptions and yards, and then like just from a pure quarterback standpoint, because like, man, it was a mess last year with Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll, like out there in Vegas. Geno Smith has not been a bad quarterback. Like he's actually been able to support relevant fantasy wide receivers, like with DK Metcalf when he was in Seattle. He had a couple of moments when he was with the Jets as well. And so like you go back and you think about some of this productivity from Garrett Wilson, like, all right, cool. Like I'm okay with that. So like, and I don't want to just like, you know, make the not tough call and just say, oh, just based off of value here, like I'm going to go for, you know, with Garrett Wilson at 401. But like Malik Nabers is going to get steamed up. Like we know he's going to get steamed up. Garrett Wilson is not going to get steamed up. He's not going to. So like Garrett Wilson he's going to be there. Like you might even land a roster where you might actually be able to get Nabers and Wilson. I think that's a lot of risk, but like Garrett Wilson, I can't believe that I have been like this blind to him during this process. And going through this today, I was like, wow, like this is a guy that like, you know, you can get as your wide receiver too. Okay. I'm in. Give me Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. I definitely like this conversation. It's more of like with the case for Garrett Wilson, right? Is like, yeah, like target share is going to be there, right? Regardless of what the Jets brought in, right? Like still talking about Garrett Wilson, like and he had played 7 games last season before, you know, injuries just caught up to him and stuff and the underperforming Jets and all that. He still had 34% target share. Like realistically, does that target share drop under 30? Probably not. So it's definitely the case there for Garrett Wilson to have that. Like, we all know, like, Geno Smith's going to be able to get the ball to Garrett Wilson. So I'm not concerned about that. I think, obviously, like, when we're talking about between these guys, like, I just want the guy that has more of the ceiling. I think Malik Nabers is just that guy. No matter who's at quarterback. I think Jaxson Dart will take a little bit more of a leap this year. It just won't be like, I don't think it's going to be like a tremendous, like, you know, fantasy breaking like forward step. But I do think that with Jaxson Dart at the helm, like there's going to be a way where Malik Nabers, where he's going. I even said it before, you know, the PUP, like non-PUP list or whatever news. Like this doesn't make any sense. Like I know Malik Nabers coming out the torn ACL, whatever. Like I'm not sugarcoating that. I know he had a cleanup procedure or whatever, like late spring, stuff like that too. However, it's Malik Nabers we're talking about. We're talking about a guy he's proven that he's high-end wide receiver upside. And honestly, like what he's had in the past for quarterbacks, like, come on. So to me, it's like Malik Nabers at the 308. I know he's going to get steamed up. Realistically, like Malik Nabers to me right now should be at a 2-3 turn anyway. So the fact that we're getting him at a 308 still currently, that's a steal all day long. Especially because of how the like roster construction can build out for you. Like Malik Nabers, the last couple seasons we've been getting him. He's been going top 15 players literally. So now we're getting him.
So is Garrett Wilson. So is Garrett Wilson. That's like that's the thing. It's like that's the thing. Is like
Garrett Wilson was going more like the 2-3 turn. No, like I don't think he was ever going like one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he was going 1-2 turn. No.
He was going. You could get him in the second round. Like there were people that were taking him in the second round because like the thing that was happening was that if you took Breece Hall, then you found yourself in a position, and it happened. It was the same concept last year, like with the Falcons, like where you take Bijan and then like, okay, the next best wide receiver is Drake London. Well, it was a very similar thing, like with Breece Hall and with Garrett Wilson. And I agree. I think like just from a pure talent perspective, like Malik Nabers is definitely like for sure like a better pure talent than Garrett Wilson. I think this is another conversation where like, okay, like if you take Malik Nabers, that's not the end of the world. Like, and if you take Garrett Wilson, like I don't think it's the end of the world. I just think that like Garrett Wilson is the guy that's gonna fall. Like he's the guy that's gonna fall because nobody has the vivid memories of everybody is that the Jets suck.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson didn't play a lot of football last year. Geno Smith sucks. Okay. Yeah, like cool. Like I'll let somebody else deal with that. But like as we talked about, like Jaxson Dart is so polarizing that in some rooms, like Jaxson Dart might be the 8th quarterback off the board. And then there's some rooms where Jaxson Dart might be the 13th quarterback off the board. Right. Yep. And I think like that's the thing is like it's not about the talent from Malik Nabers because I was just like, oh yeah, they still got Jameis too. So like if it goes completely sideways, like we know Jameson and Malik is gonna feed it's gonna feed families. Like we know it's gonna feed families, right? So I think like it's going to like that's going to, right? But like I just think like overall, like I'm like, okay, it's the same narrative, which is why like I love like talking about these two players. You can make the same narrative for both of the players because they're both in the same spot. Like they both were hurt. They both had, piss poor quarterback play for sure. Garrett Wilson has lived through piss poor quarterback play. Malik Nabers had the 1 year, right? And like we talked about the game script stuff. So I think like either way, man, like I agree with you with Malik Nabers that like, hey, like he was a first round talent last year, and he still is a first round talent. But like it's crazy to say this out loud, but like I trust Geno Smith getting him the football more than I trust Jaxson Dart getting him the ball. But it's crazy. I can't believe I'm saying that. I can't believe I'm saying that. I trust Geno Smith to get the ball to Garrett Wilson more than I trust Jaxson Dart to get the ball to Malik Nabers.
Oh, interesting.
I know.
I did not expect you to say that.
100, dude.
Wait, say it again.
Listen, I said what I said. Like I said what I said.
No,
I said what I said.
I was here.
I said what I said.
Wasn't any extra wax in my ear. There wasn't any water going on in here. Like,
listen. I mean, like if we go back, right? I mean, I guess we could say the same. Like Wandell, Wandell was a very relevant, PPR receiver last year, and we talked about Malik Nabers.
Well, me and James.
Yeah, we talked about Malik Nabers and his success going underneath, in his rookie season. And like just a lot of questions like, hey, like, is that a thing now? Like coming off of a major injury like that where you want to open yourself up to that type of deal? Or do you want to go down the field and throw the football down the field? And I think like obviously we know about Harbaugh, right? Like we know about him. We talked about like Matt Nagy and that offense and how unsexy it's been in the past, right? Like so it is what it is.
That's fair. I mean, I know people are gonna just smack around Matt Nagy and stuff like that. He's getting another opportunity. It's like I'm not gonna really like put too much emphasis on that though.
I'm going to, brother. I'm going to.
Yeah, I know you're gonna.
I'm going to. Yeah.
You definitely will. It's gonna be one of the clips of the summer. But congratulations. But I agree. I agree to what you're saying though about Garrett Wilson, right? It's like a guy that we've classified the last couple of years as another guy like where it's like we favored as like going earlier in some drafts, especially as like in that wide receiver 1 tier, and now we're getting a nicer discount now, start of the 4th round for him currently. Like that makes a ton of sense. And if you trust the nucleus around the Jets, like If you like we think Geno Smith can get in the ball, like that's fine. I just think Malik Nabers for me, like I just can't pass up a guy like that. Even if he gets steamed up to like the 2-3 turn, like realistically, if Malik Nabers gets steamed up to like the like really like middle of that second round, like that's where it's like, okay, that's probably where he should be, and that's where other people could just take him there. But the 2-3 turn, early third, you know what I'm saying, middle third, towards the end of the third, Malik Nabers, like
it ain't gonna be there. It ain't gonna be there. I'm here to tell you, it ain't.
In smarter rooms, I don't expect.
It ain't. And I don't even think even in smarter rooms too, bro. Like you think like we're on the East Coast, so like we see like a lot of Giants and Jets fans. So like I don't even think it's even gonna be that. Like I think like he is. Out of the two of these guys, like he is more apt to absolutely get sick. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But if we're talking about today, we're talking about August 5th. We're talking about August 5th right now. Just really name where he's at. But yeah, if he gets steamed up a whole round, like then I would not be so inclined to take him. But no, yeah, I mean, look, like I don't blame what you said. I think definitely is, again, another one of those situations where it's more roster construction based in a way too. So
again, like Malik Nabers being there, like, am I drafting Malik Nabers before Garrett Wilson? Yes, I am. Yeah. Like for the record, for sure, right? Sure. And I just would not want to find myself in a situation where like I'm now banking on two players who were hurt last year to now be healthy. But I'm like, man, like Garrett Wilson, like that is a steal.
It's enticing,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got Tucker Kraft and Sam Laporta. Again, two guys coming off injuries. What you got, man?
Yeah, look, I would say this. Like, this is not my ideal time to take a tight end per se. Only because what I believe right now is that if you're not getting Brock Bowers or McBride, it just be like roster construction wise, they'll have to fit a little bit better, right? And I'm not typically one of the guys that I'm going middle of my draft. I'm taking a tight end, but here's a scenario, right? It's like let's start with Laporta first, the guy that's going a little bit later, right? 7-11 currently, and he's someone that I've been not always on the last couple of years, and it's just because Laporta, it always seems like Laporta gets the short end of the stick in Detroit. For whatever reason, don't know why that is. He always has a nice solid yards per route run. Last year, in his 9 games, he ran 2.14 yards per route run. That was 5th among tight ends. He always has a solid, yards after the catch per reception. He had 6.8 the previous year. Target share was only 15%. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like Laporta is always like one of those guys. I want him to go even later because it's always like he never gives you he always gives you solid production, but he never gives you enough ceiling production or enough breakout games because Detroit had just not used him like that. Now enter Drew Petzing from Arizona, who's worked with McBride last couple seasons, and all of a sudden things start turning in my brain a little bit because I know we all know Laporta is talented, right? Like it's just more about can we get him more production, from what he's doing. So that will be the key there for Tucker Kraft, right? We talk about Tucker Kraft, and he was definitely going buck wild, right? In his 8 games before he got hurt, right? 2.57 yards per route run, and I was third among tight ends. And 18 going on 19% target share. So with Tucker Kraft, it was more like the Packers weren't healthy in general, and they overall new OC, Drew Petzing in Detroit. So overall, with when it came down to Green Bay, Tucker Kraft was the guy that was grabbing touchdowns, he was pretty much the weapon, right? Watson was still not coming back yet. Jaden Reed was already hurt. We were counting on Dobbs, we were counting on Wicks, we were counting on Matthew Golden, but he wasn't really the breakout that most people expected last year. So the Green Bay Packers offensively was just hampered pretty much throughout the whole season. But what I will say is that Tucker Kraft, there's a lot of glowing signs that he's already somewhat back to what he was close to doing. And it looks like he's having one of the most best recoveries from the ACL ever. So it remains to be seen what it goes like. does it make sense for him to go ahead of Laporta at this time? Yes and no, because the case can be made that we can easily have Laporta because of the things I talked about, right? Detroit's offense, like we all know, is it hums, right? And without now David Montgomery in the offense, like Gibbs should have obviously a full workload, but also Laporta should have more opportunities still in the red zone to score. So outside of Dave Montgomery taking goal line, touchdowns away from him. So remains to be seen how that goes in Detroit. And then with Tucker Kraft, like I do think 703, like I think it's just about right at this time. Will it go up? Will it go down? Who knows? But Tucker Kraft's one of those tight ends that, look, Green Bay, there's no more Romeo Doubs. There's no more Datavion Wicks. Those guys are out. Now it's basically Watt and 3 wide receiver sets at times. It's going to be Watson. It's going to be Reed. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be Matthew Golden. And with Tucker Kraft, I think he can still find a way to still find the magic that he had last year before getting hurt too. So it's tough, but I'm going to go with Tucker Kraft because I do think that with Green Bay's offense, like they'll need Tucker Kraft once again. I do expect the other guys, Golden, Reed, and Watson, to obviously shoulder the offense, and then who knows what's going on with Josh Jacobs. But it's more about with Kraft for me. He's he's right where he needs to be, tight end 7. So Kraft right now, tight end 7, Laporta tight end 8. It makes sense just to I could see the case that people want to make a case for Laporta, which I wouldn't mind. I just going historically on Laporta just hasn't given us enough of the ceiling games in the past to give us warranty for me to fully draft him. Because it's again, this is not the area I like to grab my tight ends anyway. I like to either grab Browers or McBride early, or just wait for a tight end or two later on just to bridge the position, because there'll be other ways I like to attack and make roster construction moves. But yeah, the answer for me right now is definitely Tucker Kraft, even coming off that ACL. I just do think there'll be more touchdown opportunities still for Tucker Kraft over Laporta, because you still got Amon-Ra, you'll still have J-Mo there, you'll have Gibbs, so it makes sense pecking order wise, for Laporta to be more productive, but it's just based on the ceiling outcomes I've seen for Laporta, it just hasn't been that throughout his career.
Woo, that was kind of spicy.
I know.
Not quite as spicy as I trust Gino, but it was spicy. Yeah. So the thing for me, right, is we've seen Sam Laporta finish the year and do it. Tucker Kraft had he was on a heater in the middle of the season before he had that ACL. He was on a heater. But everything that you just talked about with Sam Laporta screams exactly why. And Tucker Kraft was he was one of my favorite tight ends last season, right? But now you are getting remember, right? What are we 2 years removed from Sam Laporta going inside of the second round, being heralded as the next tight end, being the tight end 1, and he was on his way there. I think he was 6th in points, 6 in points per game, even for the end of the season, or for the season last year, even in the handful of sample size that we got. He was 6th as far as tight ends goes. And you mentioned, you bring in Drew Petzing, who Trey McBride, under him, all he has done is ball out. Tight end 2,
yeah, so
tight end 10, tight end 2, tight end 1.
10 touchdowns.
Yeah, so this is a guy that's done it. And you talked about the target share. When Sam Laporta is there, J-Mo's the one that takes the hit. So Sam Laporta is actually second, in target share when all those guys are there. And you're bringing in a tight end centric OC. And the one thing we all love about Dan Campbell, whenever you draft the Lions, he's I don't want to call him this generation Bill Belichick and speak blasphemy, but from a fantasy side of things, schematically, this man is running up the score on everybody, right? So I think that those are reasons for me to I really like Sam Laporta in this space. And if I have the chance to get him, I'm definitely going to take him. I think if you can get up top, right, and you can get like a Bowers, and even like a Trey McBride, like depending on like the scenario and situation, like like for sure. But I think like and this being a tight end guy, man, like there's a ton of value like later on in drafts, man. Like you can still go, you got Kyle Pitts, right? Like like you can definitely wait. So I think like this is okay. Like this is okay because there's probably going to be a scenario if you wait on tight end, and I'm gonna wait on tight end in every draft. I'm gonna wait on tight end. Like I'm not gonna do it. No like secret. I'm just not. Yeah, like it's no secret. Like I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. Like that's wild to me, right? And so like, and I think like to even go further is to say that's wild to me. Like one of the names on the screen like was the guy that like we did that with. It's like we took him early, and like we didn't get the ROI on it, right? And so and then Sam Laporta, like down the seam, man. Pretty sure 2 years ago, he actually had like the second most or the third most yards for any tight end as far as receptions down the middle of the field. And obviously, we know what it is with Jahmyr Gibbs. We know like Dan Campbell's going to want to run the ball. So like I'm here for it. Tucker Kraft is in a space where like I truly think if it's not this year, maybe next year, I truly think that like there's a world where both of these guys could end up being in the top 3 to top 5 tight ends, like no question about it. The one thing for Tucker Kraft is he doesn't have the injury history like Sam Laporta does. Like, but obviously this was an ACL, but like an ACL now is like it's not as damning as it was. Yeah, like, and the other cool part about Tucker Kraft was like he did a lot of this stuff playing in line. And so for him to be on the field and for him to be blocking, like that's crazy work. And like the only other guy in the league that like you can say like is in that same space was George Kittle. That's it. That's it. So if you're telling me like right now that like, hey, like I got an opportunity for the next George Kittle, or I'm not saying like in that area, in that space, even like a floor of George Kittle, like we'll take it. And like this guy's chunk yardage and yards after the catch, dude, was just he's a bowling ball when he gets the rock, man. So like this is another one of those great problems to have. I think this is Sam Laporta is more finesse. Tucker Kraft is more get your hands dirty. And what do you want from your tight end in either space, right? And then the last thing, like I'll say, is like I'm going to take Sam Laporta is who I'm going to take. But this all could change at the drop of a dime if the big guy goes, Josh Jacobs, brother, we taking it away from you. Here's 6 games. Here's 4 games, right? Because I'm still a Jordan Love fan. I still believe in Jordan Love. I still believe in him, right? So like, there's a space where Jordan Love can be the guy and get Tucker Kraft the ball, and he can continue this. But like, I'm gonna go Sam Laporta here. Is what I'm gonna do, and I'll live with it. But like at the end of the day, like I'm hoping to find myself in a scenario where I'm waiting on tight end. And one of these 2 names is staring me here in the face, and I'll take either one of these guys and sleep like a baby for sure.
Yeah, I mean, last 3 to put. It's like, yeah, like look, I think it just comes down to like I said, we're not one of these middling like tight end takers per se. Like obviously, like Fannin would be in this section too. We talked about Pitts, Fannin, Tucker Kraft, Laporta, like those guys. But it's more about like look. Yeah, if Josh Jacobs misses more games, like, or is going to miss games or whatnot, like, Tucker Kraft is definitely like in the conversation to be a top 3, top 4 tight end. Laporta has that opportunity. It's just, like I said, I worry about. I know you talked about he did it a couple of years back. You know what I'm saying? He had 10 touchdowns in 2023, but it's like it feels like he just doesn't get targeted enough. So. But
he's the second guy there, like with Detroit. So like nobody, like there isn't a player that's going to come in and take away like those targets from Amon-Ra. Like I'm not saying like that's the conversation, but like if we're talking about like offense,
haven't they any third at least?
No. Like
Gibbs doesn't get enough target share now?
I got Gibbs at 16. I had Tucker at 18. And then I had J-Mo was third, I think, at like 16.5. And so
talking about target share.
Target share, yeah. So so he's like he is the second. So he's the second option, and then he's the second option with the tight end guy that is just like helped fantasy managers like through the moon with Trey McBride. Like it seems like he might actually be ranked too low, man. And he might be ranked too low. He might be ranked too low. So like that's the only thing for me is like is all of that. Like we know what it is, right? Like we know what it is with the Lions, and like obviously, depending on like the Packers, right? Like not a lot's going to change for the Lions. Like we know who Jahmyr Gibbs is, we know who Amon-Ra is, we know who those guys are.
Definitely.
We don't know a lot still about the Green Bay wide receivers because every year it's a different guy. Every year it's a different guy, right? Every year
buying into Tucker Kraft even more though here because it's like
I
don't really know.
you don't, right? But like he's been there, and he like the injury happened last year, and he was trending towards that. So the year before that, like right, it still kind of the same scenario, and he was. I think I had it up here. He was like tight end 24 in total points, like. So it's I believe in Tucker Kraft. I think Sam Laporta has a higher ceiling than Tucker Kraft. I think Tucker Kraft can be phenomenal. I think he can be great. I think he can be again like a top 5 tight end for sure. But like Sam Laporta also has the ability to be tight end 1. But like it's again it's a lot of these versus situations are like really really sticky. They're really sticky because you could go either way, man. But I'll take my chances with Sam Laporta, and even just like to put a bow on it to say like, hey, to get exposure to one of the best, the best offenses in the NFL, why not? So, all right, man. Did you have a chance to check out Hard Knocks?
I have not. We all know Seattle. Is profiling this season, but
no. Okay. Well, I got to watch it today. I thought it was pretty good. Like it was pretty good. It was pretty good today. Yeah, I got to watch it. Yeah, I got to watch it today. It was pretty good, man. I early on, man. So far, my favorite is the Seahawks running back coach. Literally, just dropping F-bombs every other word. Just literally every other word. Like when you watch it, like he's literally in the running back room. I guarantee you he drops like 16 F-bombs. And I was like, this guy's like my favorite guy on the show right now. Like he's my favorite guy on the show. Yeah. And then like, Mike McDonald, like he talks about, he's like, I'm like so awkward sometimes. And like but he's a cool dude, and I'm glad he's not with the Ravens, so I can say he's a cool dude now. But like he's such a cool dude, man. Like because he is like so awkward. But like he does like all this stuff where like, he highlights like, the off-season weddings for all the players and like, talks about like them having kids and puts it like up on the screen and stuff or whatever. He's a pretty cool dude, man. I think like this, like shout out to Hard Knocks, man. Like, they definitely cooking right now for sure. And I'm excited about the second episode, and quarterbacks was really good too. I think no, my days are all messed up. Tomorrow we get preseason football tomorrow.
Yeah, we do.
Hall of Fame game. Yeah, Hall of Fame game. Jeremiah Love's not playing. Yeah, Jeremiah Love's not playing. Shocker. But it'll be something for us to watch nonetheless, man. So, So we got this one done here. We're coming back on Sunday, so I'll give it to you to let everybody know what's happening on Sunday, man.
Ooh, buddy. Well, you don't want to miss out on Sunday's show because we have a brother of ours coming through. You might know him as Chris Allen of Fantasy Football Life with Matthew Berry in particular. Coming through Fantasy Life's Chris Allen coming through. We look forward to having him on. We're talking draft strategy. We're going to be talking about just how to, attack certain ways and how to, optimize your overall rosters for especially, season-long people. Maybe, sprinkle in a little DFS action. You know what I'm saying, too? So,
man, you better hush your mouth.
Don't miss out. 7 p.m. EST Sunday.
Love it. Well, all right, man. For Nick Wilcox, I'm your man Johnny Main, 7 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Mr. Chris Allen. But until then, peace. We out.